Hello and welcome to another Del Boy video, and this time I'm keeping to a promise that I made. Now, what I've done is I've done some unboxing of trading cards just recently, and trading cards go back to a hobby that I was doing, that I was sort of like part of in the very late 80s and part way through the 90s. I did return to it briefly around about 2007, but to be quite honest, what I tended to find was that the rewards of collecting trading cards were diminishing every year. And although I got great enjoyment every time I've opened a box of trading cards, seeing, some of the cards' artwork has been a complete joy. You saw diminishing returns and you just sort of went, do you know what, I can probably do without that part of my hobby. But I promised that I would show off some of my folders, okay? And I was looking around and I did manage to find one of my folders, and I thought, do you know what, I think it's about time now that I tried to show these off. Now, I don't have the best of equipment in regards to cameras. I've got a nice sort of camera that takes this view, but the overhead camera is an oldish camera and therefore is not fantastic when it comes to light and dark and resolution and all that sort of stuff. So you'll have to bear with me, but it gives you an impression. So we're going to move over to overhead cam. There we go. And there we go. Now, this is a folder of Spiderman cards. Now, not every box set of trading cards came with its own folder. And some comic shops would have had great difficulty in trying to find a folder for you. I've mentioned it before that when you ordered your comics from a comic book store, they had something called previews, and you could pre-order these things. But a lot of things, just like today, get short shipped. So not necessarily would you be able to get yourself a folder. You must excuse me, I'm going to need a little glass of water. So this is a folder full of Spider-Man cards. And it'll be more than just the edition that's been listed up here. So I'll open it up. And hopefully you can see what the trading cards would have looked like, because trading cards generally were put in a 9x9 grid. So here's 9 cards, and it makes up what they call the base set. That's how most people would display these: base set first, chase cards second. Now, with these particular cards, these were the 1995 Fleer Spider-Man set. Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, it's called. So we're talking, what's that? 31 years ago. What you will see about these is sometimes I've got more than one card. So I'll go to this up here and you'll see what I mean. So this is an enemy called the Answer, which hopefully you can see there. But you'll see that one card is different to the other. One has got a little box in the corner that says gold foil signature series. And you will see there's a signature on it. The other one is just standard. And that's because they did what they called back then parallel sets. And that means that you could get a base set, but if you were really, really good, or you spent an awful lot of money, you could have a whole set with signatures. And these signatures could be the artist, the writer, anything that you want. So they usually went in alphabetical order. So in here, you've got the Spider-Man as the first card, but then you've got A for Annex, A for Answer, B for Beetle, B for Blackjack, B for Blood Rose, and so forth and so forth. So they'll be going in alphabetical order. Turn the page, therefore, and you're choosing the C's. But just look at this artwork. I mean, it really is quite nice, this artwork. I always used to get great enjoyment by putting these into their proper folders and proper pouches. So here we are, we're into the D's look, and you've got Dr. Octopus, Doppelganger. You got the Green Goblin, a favourite character of mine, the Hobgoblin that followed afterwards, Hammerhead. Great characters here. Look at that for J. Jonah Jameson. I mean, it's a absolutely lovely looking card. Some people would turn around and say, oh, isn't that ugly? But you got to remember that these aren't photographs. They're actually drawn by an artist. And look at that, the detail in that one there. If only I could draw like that. Oh. Maybe I wouldn't be rich, but I'd certainly be happy that I had a talent like that. Many artists would say that they don't think of themselves like that. But anyway, so here we are. We got to the M's for Manwolf. Then we got Mary Jane. Now, there used to be this big debate that went on into the 90s that comics were too sexualized. And in many ways, I'd probably agree. I'm just seeing if I can get this card out. And you'll see that this is Mary Jane. Now, that's, at this particular juncture, this was Peter Parker's wife. There you go. And you can sort of see what they mean. I mean, it is a little bit of titillation there. But I still just look at the artistry, to be quite honest. That's what I look at. Just lovely. So we get to the R's for Rhino. Some of these look a little bit abstract, but in the most part, just used to love just going through these. Scarlet Spider, so that's from the Clone Saga. Sin Eater. Came back as a character a little bit later on. Look at that, Tarantula. I really do like that one. That's a lovely looking card. I don't know if I can get that one out. I really do like the artwork on that one. There we go. Look at that for a pose, a dynamic pose on that one. Lovely. Tarantula, I believe, is shown in the trailer of the new Spider-Man film that's coming out this year. So then, what they used to do when you got to the end, because I don't know if you can see here, but it got to W, just there, you started to get ones that generate pictures. Look at this. If you see, look, the free cards make up a sort of strip scene. So there's a cobweb look going out from all sides, and on either side you've got a villain with Spider-Man in the center. Then you've got the three villains up there: Grim Hunter, Craven, and Chameleon. They're all brothers. Spencer Smythe, the Spider Slayer, and Alistair Smythe. So that's the creator of the Spider Slayer. That's his son that turned into a Spider Slayer. And then there's the Spider Slayer itself. So these are all generating sort of like imagery and have a bond between each other's. So Jack-o'-lantern, Hobgoblin, Demo-Goblin, Alien Costume, Venom and Carnage. That's all the symbiotes. And then you've got some major scenes in Spider-Man history. So you got the origin, the death of Gwen Stacy, the Alien Costume Saga. Oh, look at that image. The wedding. So that's why you've got Mary Jane in a wedding dress. Look at that. What a lovely card that is. So that would have been an event in history. Always remember that there was a back of these as well. So these are set in the same sort of way that a newspaper would do it. So you've got the Daily Bugle listed on the side. Maximum Carnage, Pursuit, Power and Responsibility, The Exile Returns, Web of Life. I remember that storyline. Web of Death, that was the follow-up. Smoke and Mirrors, The Death of a Parker, that was when Aunt May died for the first time. it just goes on and on and on. There have been many, many story arcs through these. And then you've got some that are on their side. They don't work very well on here. I'd have to turn the folder around for me to show you those. But the artwork here is really good. These are... not quite sure what these ones are called. These ones are called... oh, the Venom stories. Okay, so these are all stories that include Venom. And then we've got some heroes here. So these are team-ups. That's right. So Spider-Man's famous team-up. So he's teamed up with the Beast and the Black Cat, Black Widow, Captain America. Oh, my God, he's been around. Iron Man, Scarlet Witch. Look at that Scarlet Witch one there. That's gorgeous. And we've got Unlikely Allies, where Spider-Man is teamed up with a villain. You wouldn't normally see Spider-Man team up with his best enemy, as they say. It's almost like Sherlock Holmes teaming up with Moriarty. So there we are. Then you got this fun little series. Look, Carnage Across the USA. So this is the character Carnage with famous landmarks across America. And then you get to the end of a base set and you'd have a checklist. And after the checklist, you would normally have the chase cards. Now, I don't know if you can see these, but these are holograms. I don't know if I can hold one up. I'll try. But usually you get a hologram when you turn it and the light hits it in a particular way. You get to see Spider-Man in 3D. So they did a 2D image and added a 3D element. And then you've got these acetate ones. Now, these are slightly different acetate type covers on these. See if I can get one out again. In the fact that they're not clear cut. So these might be a little bit difficult to remove. And I think I might hurt them or damage them if I try. I might try and get this one out here just so that you can see. Yeah, little bit tricky because they've been in here, remember, for quite some time. But you can see they're translucent. But they're on what they call acetate. And those would have been so many cards per pack. So you might have got one acetate card every 3 packs, every 5 packs. These are metal cards. These are sort of like the foil type cards. Always lovely, look. You can see the metal on that, look. You can see it's pure, just pure foil. Probably picking up my camera on that. And there was 2 sets of those, I think, villains and heroes. And that would be the end of that set. But because that would have made the folder very, very thin, I put my other cards that are from Spider-Man. Now, this is the card set that started the whole thing going in regards to collaboration with people in a comic store. I was still buying cards before this set, don't get me wrong, but this was the set that where I was buying boxes and I'd give my doubles to my friends and we would try and get base sets and all the chase cards, and we got quite successful. So this is what they call the Spider-Man, what were these called? These were Spider-Man 1992. Yeah, so these are not Fleer, but they were all, this was the unique selling point of these, where they were all drawn by one artist, and that's Mark Bagley. So this is 1992, so you can do the maths on that one. So 34 years. Love the backs of these as well. But look, every single one of these makes up a 9-card picture. So they're all joined. Look at that. I really enjoyed that. That's a sort of like a sort of New York skyline type picture. And then you've got famous villains going around the center of Spider-Man with that one. There's another New York skyline one. Top of a building facing downwards. All done, drawn again by Bagley. Top of a building with Hydra Man, look, that goes all the way along that edge, look. Hydra Man there. Gorgeous. Really nice idea. Look at the spider web on this one. So this has got the spider web with all the villains going around the outside with Spider-Man in the center. Must have been really infuriating if you didn't have them all, because then you'd have a card missing and you'd be going, damn, I wonder what that picture looked like. So after we get rid of those pictures, we then go to individual cards again. These ones are, again, famous storylines or team-ups. There we are. So these are done in the shape of a newspaper. Look, Daily Bugle, Spider-Man versus Firelord, Spider-Man versus Rhino, Spider-Man versus Hulk, Spider-Man versus Vulture. So these are all versus sets. These look like they're friends of Spider-Man. Look, because you've got Aunt May, J. Jonah Jameson, Mary Jane, Flash Thompson, Joe Robbie Robertson. Yeah. Really quite nice. This looks like the origin story. So, bitten by a radioactive spider, tried to make money. The burglar got away. The burglar kills Uncle Ben. Gets caught, realizes that with power comes great responsibility, visits the grave of Ben Parker. Yeah, that's the origin, all right. Then we've got some famous battles and stories. Death of Gwen Stacy crops up an awful lot. It is a very, very famous story, that one. And it looks very much like this camera's picked up these holograms very well. Look at those at the bottom. Wow, I don't even have to take those out. I think there were 4 in that set, and I've got all 4. Yeah. So those are all 4 of the chase cards for the holograms, and these are the acetates. Now, the unique thing about the acetates on these is that when you turned it over, you still had the image the other side rather than a sort of a dull back of the card. So whatever you saw at the front was repeated on the back. You had to be quite a unique artist to try and work that one out. And that was the end of those. So that was the first set, 93. You have a 95. This could be the 94 set. I'm not sure. Let's see if it's what it says at the bottom. This is the Spider-Man Premium set. And it came out in 1996. So it's actually the card after the Fleer set. So these ones, I don't know if you can see it very well. I'll pull this card out again. They are slightly embossed. So they're raised. See the raisingness of that Spider-Man symbol in the top right-hand corner? So it's actually embossed. So each card is not flat. So they're usually in the same sort of order. You've got heroes and villains. It goes in alphabetical order. Look, these are foes at the beginning. Look. So we've got here Tombstone, Vulture, Vermin, Venom. Then it looks like we've got some verses again, some famous battles. Again, different artists this time. So where the last set were all Mark Bagley, these are different artists. So sometimes you'll come across your favourite artist and you'll go, oh, wow. And then others, you'll look at it and go, what's that? That's not my type of art. I don't think that's particularly fantastic. So you can usually sometimes get a bit of an eclectic set. So these, look, are supposed to be drawn in the same way as if you were in an asylum. Say you're in a drug-induced state. So all the jaws are elongated or the heads are warped slightly. So that's quite interesting, as if you'd been in an asylum. And then you've got, I think these are 3 different images of the same character. So Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, Demo Goblin. They're all drawn by different artists. It's quite nice. And again, look, we get to chase cards. So after we get to the 100th card, so there was 100 in this one, you've got chase cards, and these ones are canvas cards. Canvas cards are on a different type of stock. So it's almost like you're painting on a special type of paper. Don't know if I can get these out. Again, remember, these are over 30 years old. And so you have to be very careful lifting them out. But there we go. So if I can see those there, look, you'll see that it's like it's been painted on a particular type of parchwork. Bob will know more about that. He uses a program called Rebella, and you can choose the type of parchment that you're doing. Again, I haven't got all the cards. There is a hologram card of this one. I think this one was a different type of hologram. I think this was a hologram that actually looks like it moves, so it's a motion type hologram. I don't know if the light's going to pick these up. So no, you're not going to get that one very well. But if you twisted it, you actually got an image that moved. Hollow motion, it's called. There you go. So I obviously bought a couple of boxes of those and didn't get all of them. And I think this is one of the last sort of sets here. We've got, again, I can't. These are all lovely cards, but they're black and white. So these ones are, what does it say? Marvel Spider-Man character set. So there we go. That's all it's called. It just says Fleer Ultra. There you are. And it's a, what set? 97 set. So I'm going 95, 96, 97. We haven't found a 94. Looks like I was missing a 94, or they didn't do a set that year. So there we go. Black and white set there. Again, done like an asylum. These are called Spider-Man one-shots. Look at the back here. It looks very weird, but that's because, if I remember rightly, the uniqueness about this is when you got all of the base cards, you could make a big picture. And I'm talking about a huge picture. We're not talking 9x9. You know, we're talking more like 20x20 grid, something along those lines. So that's really something nice if you ever did take these all out. Now this is the red set from what I can tell. That's why all the writing's in red. I think there was a blue parallel set for these. You got all, again, mixed different artists. Amazing Spider-Man, you can see there. These ones are glow in the dark. I remember that. So these are glow in the dark cards. And that isn't a chase set. That's part of the base set. So these would have been random in the packs. I think these were glow in the dark as well, but has more artwork in these. Spider-Man Adventures was a comic book based on the 90s TV cartoon. Spectacular Spider-Man was a particular comic book called Spectacular Spider-Man. Spider-Man Team Up was a comic book called Team Up. Amazing Spider-Man obviously is the book that started it all, really. There's the chase card. And the checklist card. And I didn't have any chase cards for those. So I might have just actually been very unlucky, or I've got them in another folder or something else. But again, it's only a 90 card set. Now these are really old. These are the Todd McFarlane cards, and if you've ever noticed one of my blogs, you'll notice that that's a poster that's on my wall. These are what they call the Todd McFarlane era cards. These came out in 1992, so that was before that Bagley set that you saw in 93. It's an oldish style card. It's sort of like these were the sort of packs that you bought for 50 pence. And then they turned into really premium type cards. Look at the back. I mean, it looks like it was wrapped up in that sort of like bubble gum, which is what would have probably have come with these packs when they first came out. And I think these wouldn't have had too many chase cards. There would have been a few. So this is the McFarlane era. It's probably a very short set of cards, all done, but they would have all been done by one artist, Todd McFarlane, who really catapulted Spider-Man into the stratosphere in the 90s. That people were in droves buying the very first Spider-Man book that he actually drew, and it went for a. But of course, they made so many of them that that the actual comic book is not that worth that much anymore. But there we go. So there's 70, 71, 72. It's probably a 90 card set. Yes, so there's the checklist. And again, I've got no special card. And this set must be before that set. So, no, came out the same year, but they are called the 30th Anniversary Spider-Man set. Again, very basic card sets, mostly panels from the comic books. I think there was a chase set to these. There you are. There's a John Romita card. Absolutely gorgeous there. Have to have my hero, John Romita. There you are. That's another cover by John Romita. Yeah. Green Goblin, Shocker. Another John Romita cover. That's the death of Gwen Stacy, only that's the death of the Green Goblin cover. What's that? Issue 122. More Venom. There's Secret Wars, which is going to be a film shortly. And then we've got the checklist. And right at the back, you've got the 30th Chase card set. And these are all the Chase cards. That's right. I remember that. So there were 5 cards. So that particular set there, the 1992 set that you saw there, the 30th anniversary, I've got all the cards and the Chase. Marvellous. And that really covers that. I'll just put these back. You can see how the artwork changed throughout the years. And we'll go back to the camera. It was just a very quick run through of cards that I bought through the years. And I mean, the actual excitement was opening the packs. But it was just great that at the end of collecting and you put them in the pouches, you could then flick through this like a book and just admire the artwork. I had a great time collecting them. It is of a period of time that's now gone for me. I mean, I'm now in my 50s. When I was collecting these, I was in my 20s. Who knew? You know, back then I wasn't thinking about money. I was just thinking about, oh, I've got to have every one of them cards. And, oh, doesn't that artwork look nice? So I hope you've had a nice little parade through my folders. I've got many more. But this is my character that I've bought for no end of years, Spider-Man. And I thought it would be very nice showing them off. And so with that, I'm going to say salute. Hope you've enjoyed this little look, and see you next time. Bye-bye.